We're going to call this meeting to order. Andrew, would you call the roll?
Community Board 1, Community Board 2,
Robert Harris, representing Shirley McRae.
Community Board 3, Community Board 4, Community Board 5, Community Board 6, Community Board 7, Community Board 8,
Shalom Langhorne for Nudoni Granville.
Community Board 9, Community Board 10, Community Board 11,
Marty Elias Pavia with William Goranello.
Community Board 12,
Larry Spitzer for Edelperstein.
Community Board 13, Community Board 14,
Here.
Community Board 15,
Here.
Community Board 16,
Viola Green Walker representing Vancouver Wallace.
Community Board 17,
Here.
Community Board 18, Councilmember Barron,
Here. Joy Simmons.
Councilmember Cornegy, Councilmember Cumbo, Councilmember Deutsch, Councilmember Espinal,
Here.
Councilmember Eugene, Councilmember Gentili,
Here.
Councilmember Greenfield,
Here.
Councilmember Lander, Councilmember Levin, Councilmember Mizell,
Here.
Councilmember Mealy, Councilmember Menchaca, Councilmember Reynoso, Councilmember Traeger, Councilmember Williams, Borough President's Office, present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. First of all, thank everyone for coming out tonight as we deal with these important items on the agenda. On the agenda tonight, we have 3 items. One is a resolution on lands use application submitted by the New York City Department of Citywide Services, the Economic Development Corporation, Brooklyn Public Library, and Cadman Association, LLC, for disposition and redevelopment of city-owned property at 1 Clinton Street, also known as 280 Cadman Plaza West. The second item is a discussion and vote on a resolution in support of Borough Hall's computer coding initiative. And the third item is discussion and vote on a resolution in support of Borough Hall's hospital funding initiative. Before we begin, do we have to call the roll again?
No, we're good.
Are we good? Okay. So we do have a quorum. I would like to have the minutes of the February 2016 Borough Board meeting adopted.
Motion to adopt.
All in favor?
We have a second.
Second?
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Moving on to our 3 items on the agenda. Again, I said the first one is dealing with the Brooklyn Public Library. Tonight, our first agenda items is to authorize the disposition of city-owned property pursuant to City Charter, Section 384, Sub B and 4, through the Department of Citywide Services and the Economic Development Corporation located at 1 Clinton Street in the Brooklyn Heights section of Community District 2. To Cadman Association, LLC, for mixed-use development inclusive of a Brooklyn Public Library condominium and a Department of Education state-of-the-art science, technology, engineering, and math lab for School District 13, subsequent to completion of such redevelopment. The proposal completed the ULURP process on December 16, 2015. My office has taken additional time to review the proposal in greater detail, including independent inquiries with the New York State Attorney General's Office, the New York City Office of Management and Budget, and the Brooklyn Public Library. As a result of this review, the Borough Board is able to properly consider this disposition. I remain concerned that the lack of funding and ultimate lack of maintenance of the city's library stems from the fragmentation of the various operational systems and management agencies. I continue to believe that in order to identify and address the necessary needs of our libraries, it is important to address these structural challenges. This is not the venue for addressing operation structures, though I expect the Borough Board and I to be kept apprised in a proactive fashion if there are any changes related to the circumstances relating to this disposition. Representatives of the Brooklyn Public Library and the Economic Development Corporation are here tonight to make a short presentation and will then take questions from the Borough Board. Please come to the podium and state your names and title for the record. You can sit here.
My name is David Wallach. I'm the Executive Vice President for External Affairs at the Brooklyn Public Library. And with me is John Corcoran from the Economic Development Corporation. So I'm going to turn it over to him shortly to describe the project and the business terms of the project. But I just wanted to give a little bit of background at the outset. We at the library are trying to solve two problems. One is to address an overall challenge that we have throughout our 60 branches in terms of capital challenges, and then also to build a better branch in Brooklyn Heights. So we have about $300 million in unfunded needs throughout our system. That includes the central library, and that includes all of our branches. These are needs that have no funding attached to them. There are other capital needs that we have funding for that are in the capital construction pipeline. The $300 million can't be addressed with the funding that we currently have because that's been allocated to other projects. Now, obviously, we want to try to do what we can to move those projects along, but to begin to make a dent in this huge capital challenge that we have, we need more funding. We continually push the city to give us more capital. The borough president was particularly generous last year. We continue to go to the city council, who also has been generous. We continue to go to the administration. We continue to pursue all sources of funding that we can get. But this project affords us a unique opportunity. Through the sale, and John will describe the project in more detail, the city, on our behalf, will be bringing in $52 million, about 40 of which will be able to go into other branch locations outside of Brooklyn Heights. In addition, we have an opportunity to deal with a branch that is deficient in many ways at 280 Cadman Plaza. It has $9 million in capital needs itself, including a broken air conditioning system, faulty elevators, and it also has other challenges: poor layout, low ceilings, an uninspiring design. It is a mid-20th century library, and the Brooklyn Heights community deserves a 21st century library. We issued an RFP to begin this process in June 2013. We received submissions in September 2013. It was one of the most competitive RFPs in EDC history. In September 2014, after a rigorous evaluation process, we selected Hudson. And in 2015, we went through the ULURP process. I have to say, the ULURP process for us was a long process to go through, but now looking back on it, it was a process that added a lot of value to the project. We had some very good discussions at the community board. We got great feedback from the borough president that Steve Levin and the city council then took, and at the end of the process, as we negotiated the final project, we ended up with what I think is a tremendously improved project, with a bigger library space than we had initially planned, with an assurance that a portion of the space would still be devoted to business services, even though the business library that is currently at 280 Cadman Plaza is moving to the central library. We improved the affordable housing and lowered the AMIs. A DOE space was added to the building. And a clause was added to the contract that ensure that if the condo revenue sales are high, that the library will get a piece of that on top of the $52 million. So the ULURP process really, from our perspective, created a much stronger project. On that note, I'll turn it over to John Corcoran from EDC.
So as David mentioned, my name is John Corcoran. I work for the Economic Development Corporation, and our role in this project is to advise and support the library in its negotiations with Hudson and bringing this project to the point that we're at now. So this evening, we're coming before you to seek approval of the primary business terms of this project. With that, I'll turn to a quick overview of the site that you can see pictured here. It's a triangular site at the intersection of Cadman Plaza West, Tillery, and Clinton Streets. At this location, the project would include a wide mix of uses. Could change. First and foremost, it would include a brand new library, as David mentioned, a modern library that would have a larger amount of square footage or a larger percentage of square footage and be publicly accessible. It would be flexible for various uses and also include a lot more technology than the current branch library. It would include an innovative STEM center that DOE would operate in order to inspire and educate our youth in important fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It would include a large mix of residential units of varying sizes, income levels, ownership and rental. There's ground floor retail, which would provide services and a vibrant street life, and of course, and then as well parking. While the construction's ongoing, there would be an interim library a few blocks away, which would ensure no interruption of library services throughout the construction process. In addition, as David mentioned, BPL would receive $52 million as well as potential participation in the condo net sales, and as David mentioned. So I think the great news is that this project has a number of public benefits for the library system. In addition to a new Brooklyn Heights branch and renovation to existing branches in the system, there would be a new branch for Dumbo, Vinegar Hill, and Farragut houses, extended service as well, and additional benefits beyond the library system of creating jobs, both construction and permanent, and providing 114 affordable housing units for low and middle income families. So with that overview of the business terms, I thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions you have from EDC, BPL, as well as Hudson.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for questions and comments from any members of the Borough Board or their representatives.
How many stories is the building that's going to be built?
36.
And the language in the resolution, I don't know, really our language, when it's describing the last paragraph as described in the submission by the NYC, are you talking about?
Can you give him the mic? Hold on one moment, so I give you the microphone.
On the last paragraph of our proposal, the proposed resolution, it says, as described in the submission by the NYC EDC, is that this memo? Is this like in whole part of our resolution? Every
Yes.
part of it, in terms of the affordable housing?
Yes.
Okay. And you said there's going to be a DOE facility inside the proposed library?
Not in the library space, but in the building. So
Separate
and
apart.
apart from the
Separate.
library space.
And it's there for 10 years at least,
Correct.
right?
Waiting DOE
It could leave then, after that. All right. And there's also going to be a branch library built in Dumbo or Vinegar Hill
Correct.
as part of the proposal.
Which is the neighborhood currently served by the Brooklyn Heights Library right now.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. We will now proceed to the resolution for the disposition and redevelopment of city-owned property at 280 Cadman Plaza West to Cadman Associates LLC. A copy of the proposed resolution was distributed at the beginning of this meeting. If there are any questions, any other questions, we are willing to hear them now. If not, I would like to see, are there any new members that came in? I know Representative Carlos Machaco. Anyone else? Councilman Levin, Antonio Reynoso, Councilman Reynoso. Anyone else? Okay, I'd like to see if any members of the Borough Board or the representative have any final comments, questions, or proposed modification of the draft resolution. Councilman Levin, grab the mic.
Sell out. When are you going to insist on transparency? You promised it over a year ago. It's a fundamental obligation of your office. When will you?
Well, listen, hold on. We opened this up to the public, and no one is strange on how I do business in Borough Hall. We could disagree without being disagreeable, and we would not be disrespectful. If you cannot be here and allow this hearing to go in a respectable fashion, then you will remove yourself from the location. We will respect each other. That's the only way I know how to do business. You can disagree. There are things I disagree. I don't have my way every way, and you're not. But you're not going to disrupt this meeting. You're not going to disrupt this meeting. You're going to allow the council person to speak, just as you have a right to speak when you stood out in front of this office in your press conference yesterday. I did not allow anyone to disrupt that, and you're not going to disrupt my meeting. Councilman Levin.
Thank you very much, Borough President. I just want to acknowledge everybody that's spent a significant amount of time around this project, both in favor of the project and against the project. A lot of people have invested quite a bit in this proposal, and I believe that as a result of that very robust dialogue over a number of months throughout the ULURP process, before the ULURP process, acknowledging the work of the Borough President's Office and Community Board 2 in the ULURP process for thorough hearings and significant recommendations. I believe that the proposal before the Borough Board today is significantly improved from how it was initially proposed, and is significantly improved from what the status quo situation is. And I do want to acknowledge everybody that, as I said, worked on this from the Brooklyn Public Library and EDC and Hudson Companies, but I also want to acknowledge those members of the public that have voiced their concern, voiced their disapproval, citizens defending libraries and other individuals that made their voices heard, and I believe made this a better proposal through that process. And just want to make that clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Levin. Andrew, would you read the motion to approve the sale of the city-owned property at 280 Cadman Plaza West to Cadman Association?
Whereas 280 Cadman Plaza West, the site is an approximately 26,620 square foot triangular parcel with an approximately 59,146 square foot building housing 2 branches of Brooklyn Public Library, as well as below-grade storage. And whereas, following an RFP offering the site for sale, the City of New York proposes to dispose of the property for ultimate sale by NYEDC to the Hudson Companies Incorporated or an affiliate, Hudson. And whereas Hudson proposes to construct an approximately 26,620 square foot library, an approximately 9,000 square foot community facility, approximately 134 residential condominium units, approximately 450 square feet of retail, and approximately 68 parking spaces. And whereas the Borough Board acknowledges that the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development conducted an environmental quality review of this proposal pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and the Rules of Procedure for City Environmental Quality Review and Executive Order 91 of 1977. And whereas the Borough Board further acknowledges that as a result of the environmental quality review conducted of this proposal by the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development pursuant to the law and rules set forth above, the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Housing and Economic Development issued an environmental assessment statement, EAS, and a negative declaration on June 12, 2015. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Borough Board approves the disposition pursuant to Section 384B4 of the New York City Charter of city-owned property located at 280 Cadman Plaza West, Block 239, Lot 16, as described in the submission by NYEDC to the Brooklyn Borough Board.
Can I have a second on the motion? Second. Only the council members or the designee community board 2 and the borough president's office are eligible to vote on this matter. Andrew, call the roll.
Community Board 2?
Can we have discussion among the people who are here first before you vote?
Community Board 2?
Community Board 2 votes yea.
Councilmember Barron? Councilmember Barron?
No.
Councilmember Cornegy?
Yay.
Councilmember 11?
Vote aye.
Councilmember Cumbo?
Shame on Laurie Cumbo.
course.
Shame on Laurie Cumbo.
Keep the order, please. Keep the order, please.
Councilmember Espinal?
Yes.
Councilmember Eugene? Councilmember Gentili? Councilmember Greenfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Lander?
Yes.
Councilmember Mizell? Councilmember Mizell?
Aye.
Councilmember Mealy? Councilmember Menchaca?
Aye.
Councilmember Reynoso? Councilmember Traeger? Councilmember Williams?
Thank you.
Borough President?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Rapney wins.
That concludes our business related to the disposition and redevelopment of city-owned property at 280 Cadman Plaza West. Andrew, take over for me.
Thank you very much. Tonight's second agenda item is a discussion and vote on a proposed resolution in support of Borough Hall's computer coding initiative. At the last Borough Board meeting, Borough Hall policy analyst Jeff Lowell discussed Code Brooklyn, our initiative to promote the teaching of computer science in all schools across the borough. A copy of the resolution was previously distributed to all members. I'd like to see if any... Can we have some quiet, please? I know people are leaving. Thank you. I'd like to see if any members of the Borough Board or the representatives have any final comments, questions, or proposed modifications on the draft resolution. Committee Board 6?
I just want to put out that this is, I think, an incredible move by the borough president, and I feel like STEM and computer science and the focus on our future is incredibly important, and just want to get that out there on the record I'm not certain that the boos are for computer science for all and for coding for everybody, but I do think it should be noted.
You're stealing money from the Department of Education.
Excuse me, thank you.
I just want to give just a shot in the arm and actually just say I think this is an incredible proposal, and I look forward to working not only directly with it through our community board, but with all the rest of the community boards to ensure that we have computer science for all as we move forward, and more hours of code so that we can leave Chicago in our dust.
Is there a motion to consider the proposal? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one. I have a question.
Barry?
I just want to know, is there a possibility in the future to get this program into private schools?
Yeah, I think as we talked about last month, our initial efforts were limited to public schools. So that was the low-hanging fruit, if you will, to kind of as an initial part of this program. And we fully hope that the goal is to get into all schools, public and private, as this program continues to expand. So absolutely,
Great.
That's part of the commitment in this endeavor. Is there a motion to consider the proposed resolution? Teresa, is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion. Is there a second to that motion? We have a second. All members of the Borough Board are eligible to vote on this matter. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Tonight's third agenda item is a discussion and vote on a proposed resolution in support of Borough Hall's hospital funding initiative. At the last Borough Board meeting, Borough Hall policy analyst Natalia Granshaw discussed a letter to Governor Cuomo concerning a lack of information regarding the proposed $700 million in funding for hospitals and healthcare in Brooklyn. If you recall, we asked members of the Borough Board to sign on to a letter in support of additional information regarding the $700 million, and we discussed a proposed resolution that would magnify the effect of that letter. A copy of the resolution was previously distributed to all members. Do any members of the Borough Board or the representatives have any comments, questions, or proposed modifications to the draft resolution? Is there a motion to go, I'm sorry, Councilmember Cumbo's office? It was never explicitly said for Brookdale. The assumption was when the announcement was made that it was going to be towards going either towards Brookdale or to restructure Brookdale or open up another facility by Brookdale, but that was never explicitly stated as far as my understanding is, and that's what I believe Italia had said last month. So this funding it was generally announced that we're going to invest $700 million, the state's going to invest $700 million into the Brooklyn hospitals and healthcare without any further information as to how that was going to be allocated. And that was part of the reason for this letter. It's been a year since that announcement, and there's been no forthcoming information from the governor's office as to how that money is going to be spent. And additionally, there's been no role for community input into how that money should be spent in healthcare and hospitals in Brooklyn. Ryan, is that a fair, accurate representation of the status? Okay. Ryan, do you want to?
Well, I'm sorry.
You just say that into the microphone. So
So the question is, does the funding go into HAC hospitals? There's only been rumors that it's supposed to go toward Brookdale. There's been no confirmation of whether or not that's true. Again, as Daniel outlines, the only public comment on this and the money in the budget, $700 million for public development hospitals.
Any additional questions?
Andrew, that money was put there in the budget of 2015, correct?
Correct.
In the budget line?
I don't think it was actually, it was put in the budget, yes.
Was it included in last year's budget, it remains in this year's budget proposal? No,
It's just Brooklyn Healthcare.
Yeah, in the budget, it says Brooklyn Healthcare.
That's it.
And I'll check the verbiage on it, but that's what it's.
There's no, in other words, there's no specific allocation of that money.
Where the money is.
Where the money is going to, correct. And that was the cause for concern.
Okay.
Any additional questions? So I know, we passed out the letter at the end of the last meeting and we asked people to sign on. I know some members of the board did, some did not. I know some wanted to sign on, but they weren't able to. So as we discussed last time, because there was a question raised, well, what about boards that want to weigh in on this but don't meet before this letter needs to go out? So as we discussed last time, this is really a two-pronged approach. The first was to send the letter out immediately because budget negotiations are currently ongoing up in Albany. And the second part of that process was to follow up with the passage of this resolution, which all members of the Borough Board, being members of the Borough Board, would have a chance to weigh in on this issue. So we would follow up our initial letter by using this resolution to increase leverage in our advocacy. So just because you were not, whether you were a board or a member, not able to weigh in at the letter stage, by participating in the process here and voting on the resolution here, hopefully in support, you're able to equally weigh in at this stage and still be part of this important conversation. Do I have a motion to consider the proposed resolution? Motion. We have a motion. Do we have a second on that motion? Second. We have a second. Okay. All members of the Borough Board are eligible to vote on this matter. By show of hands, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Community Board 16, okay? The the resolution passes. Do any members of the Borough Board, or before I go to old business, I'll just mention two pieces of old business. Number one, the Bylaws Committee, Subcommittee will be meeting next Tuesday evening, March 8th, here at Borough Hall at 6 p.m. Currently, that committee is made up of Councilmember Menchaca's office, Councilmember Cumbo's office, and CB's 11 and 15. We're still looking for 2 additional members to join if they want. ideally another council member, another community board, though that's not set in stone. So if anyone else wants to be part of that bylaws committee process, it's been 5 years since the bylaws have been reviewed. It's time to just take a fresh look at them, see any proposed modifications, which of course we then bring to the full board. So if you're interested in participating in that, come see me after the meeting. The first meeting will be next Tuesday evening, March 8th, 6 p.m. Secondly, at the last meeting, we talked about the NYC Votes campaign, and we talked about doing some advocacy work around election law reform. Our office is in the process of doing some more background research on some of the bills that were discussed with the NYC Votes campaign, and we anticipate bringing it to the Borough Board to consider a proposed resolution either the April meeting or the May meeting. So we didn't get to it this month, but we're going to come back to it. Do any other members of the Borough Board have any old business to discuss?
Last month, we had a presentation from folks who I don't remember their names. They were devoting, they want to expand the access to.
I just spoke to that. So we're gonna bring that back next month. We're still doing some background research on that, and we're pulling some additional information regarding the bills that they're asking us to support, as well as some other potential legislation. Our team is still working on that. We're gonna bring it back to the board in a month or so.
Thank you.
Yep. Note for the record that CB7 is here. Any additional old business? Any new business to discuss? Okay, seeing that, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 5th, 2016. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Is there a second? Any all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.